Does the EPA Die Today? And if you are not familiar with this story, and there was a follow-up, by the way, in yesterday afternoon's New York Times saying that basically my concerns are legitimate. I mean, it didn't reference me at all, but it referenced all the points that I'm making in this piece. You can find it at hartmannreport.com. It's free to anybody. It's titled, Does the EPA Die Today? No ads, no nothing. You don't have to sign up or anything. You can just read it. This was Loper Bright Enterprises versus Gina Raimondo was the name of the case before the EPA. And if the 6 corrupt Republicans on the Supreme Court rule the way that it's starting to look like they're going to, based on their questions yesterday during the hearings, the EPA will no longer be able to regulate pollutants. The USDA will no longer be able to keep our food supplies safe. The Food and Drug Administration will no longer be able to oversee drugs coming into the marketplace. OSHA will no longer be able to protect workers. The CPSC will no longer be able to keep dangerous toys and consumer products off the market. The Federal Trade Commission will no longer be able to regulate monopolies. The Department of Transportation can no longer come up with highway and automobile safety standards. The ATF will no longer be able to regulate guns. The Interior Department won't be able to regulate drilling and mining on federal lands. The FCC won't be able to save us from internet or protect us from internet predators. And the Department of Labor will no longer be able to protect your rights as a worker. What they're trying to do is what Steve Bannon said Donald Trump's goal was in being president, which was to, quote, deconstruct the administrative state. Now, what's the administrative state? It is our regulatory agencies. It's all those agencies that I just read you the names of. And the right-wing billionaires who own the Republican Party and own of the U.S. Supreme Court, 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court, those right-wing billionaires hate regulatory agencies because those regulatory agencies force them to treat their workers well, force them to make decent products that they can stand behind, force them to reduce their pollution and their emissions, thus reducing their profits, tell them they can't sell products that might poison or harm our kids, which reduces their profits. I mean, all of this has to do with profits, or in the case of the Internal Revenue Service, taxes. Virtually the entirety of America's ability to protect its citizens will be wiped out if the Supreme Court rules the way it looks like they're going to rule. This is a really big deal. This is something that Ronald Reagan started, specifically with regard to the environment, the EPA, when he put Ann Gorsuch in charge of it. And there was a 79% decline in enforcement cases in her first year on the agency, 69% drop in cases the EPA referred to the Justice Department for prosecution. She pushed for a 25% cut in her own agency's funding. It took Congress years to overturn her cuts to the Clean Air Act on everything from automobiles to furniture manufacturing. She set solar back a decade, Neil Gorsuch's mother. And finally, she had to resign, as Newsweek said, quote, because of a nasty scandal involving political manipulation, Superfund mismanagement, perjury, and destruction of subpoenaed documents, among other things, end quote. And so now her son is on the Supreme Court, and he wants to finish the job that his mom started. And he's not alone in that because, you know, you've got a whole bunch of other Republicans on the Supreme Court who are just, you know, basking daily in the golden shower of money and wealth and vacations and everything else that these Republicans are raining down on them. These billionaires are raining down on them. I guess golden shower isn't the right metaphor given the age of Trump, but you get my point. In this case, it's literally gold. It's breathtaking, frankly, how radical the Republican Party, these right-wing billionaires, and 6 sellout, corrupt members of Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court have become.